I feel being as a career guide, being as a career mentor, it is very much essential to understand the background of the student, to understand their need, what they exactly need.
I think it is again connected to why you should choose a course, and then that has to be translated into the SOP. So the connection is completely there.
Generally, university check the knowledge and like how well a student has explored the program, the university.
Welcome to another episode of Meta Applies ABC podcast series. Today, we are going to talk about the ultimate guide, the A to Z of studying abroad. And I have a fantastic and fabulous guest with me, Miss Priyashree. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Mahima, for a lovely introduction. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I feel very happy. Honestly saying, I feel very happy when it is something to guide the student regarding their study abroad journey. So looking forward to have a more discussion.
So Priyashree carries over 15 years of experience in studying abroad industry. She has helped hundreds of students reach to their study destination, their dream university. And today she is going to tell us about everything relating to studying abroad, why students go over there, what are the problems they face, all the challenges and all the solutions. So my first question to you is that why should a student actually study abroad, and if he or she has decided to do so, what is the timeline and when that student should start his or her application?
See, study abroad, there are a lot of reasons behind choosing the option to go ahead to study in abroad countries. Like having a better career and employment opportunity. Secondly, experiencing a different culture. Then learn a different languages. It is more like a self-development, and people become more independent as well. So that is one of the important key factors behind choosing the options to study in abroad country.
Yeah, I think it is also important in character development, which is very important these days.
Exactly. It's like, because student when they go to study in foreign countries, they interact with a lot of different kind of people. Like, people are from some other countries, and countries like US, countries like Europe, then UK, and there are other many countries.
I think one of the other points is also that once you go to any other international country, per se America, you will not only meet Americans, there will be people from different ethnicities over there as well.
Yes, see, US is the hub of, this is one of the best education system we have in entire world. So people prefer to choose study destination US, and there are a lot of country, you won't believe that more than 100 plus country people migrate to US in order to study their higher education. So that is something where a lot of people from different background come together and exchange their knowledge, their experience, which really help them to develop their interpersonal skills as well as their personality in their.
Yeah, I think in UAE as well, 80% of people are international.
Exactly.
Yeah, same goes for UK or Australia. Australia is also known as the land of immigrants.
Exactly. So it's a similar kind of there are so many destinations, popular destination, which is most preferred by the student, even from the Indian student and South Asian student and from different countries. And even at the same time, that doesn't matter people comes from which country, from which background. It is something coming to a same platform, coming to a same university, exploring the not only the study, not only the opportunity to learn in their domain and to enhance their skill. It is more getting their personal development by exchanging the information or the knowledge, and even it's more like a even migrating to one country, you are still capable to know more than 100% countries, the culture, the language and everything by exchanging the information and knowledge. So it is like that.
Yeah, I think that is why we encourage students, whoever who go there, to network.
Exactly. Student network is very important, even in any of the country, because network helps a lot, not only for their study, also for their professional growth, and it is everywhere requires.
My second question would be that when should a student actually start their journey if they do want to study abroad? Should it be 1 month before the application or a year before the application?
See, this answer would be very subjective. That depends upon, like, the category of the program, the category of the university, and the country where they want to apply. But however, in general, it's very much essential to apply a year before
Yeah.
to the the prior to the intake, actual intake, because it takes a lot of information you have to gather. You have to prepare. There are a lot of requirements in terms of eligibility criteria, in terms of financial. Some student needs a financial help. They need a scholarship. So there are different timeline for scholarship as well, different timeline for the student application deadline.
Yeah.
And at the same time, because if you have made your mind for study abroad, then your budget, your financial planning should be there. So that should be always in advance.
And I think you very correctly pointed out that it's very subjective. Earlier, I didn't know that there are multiple intakes for each country.
Yeah, some university even take rolling based admission.
Okay, what's that?
Rolling based admission means it's something like every month they open that deadline for the application. They open the application date, the student apply. When the application date is over, they close the deadline. But again, after 1 month, they open. It's a rolling base, means throughout a year, after a only short break, they keep taking the application. So it is like January, March, May, then July, then September, then November, and then December.
And this applies for all top ranking universities.
Not all top ranking university. It is somewhere in, like, some few university take rolling based admissions.
Okay, okay. You were talking about courses and programs, and so how can a student actually choose a course? Because there are, if I'm not wrong, thousands of courses.
Exactly.
And right now, as more we are going into a modern time, the courses are again becoming way more dynamic. So how does a student choose a course?
Whenever any student come to me and they ask about, helping them in either shortlisting of university or shortlisting the right course, or even sometimes student come to us and they just ask that I want to apply for that program. Do you have any university? What kind of university you are going to suggest us? My first question is always to them is like, why do you want to pursue that program? What is your objective behind going ahead with that program? Have you made your roadmap? Have you foreseen your career after pursuing that program? So I always ask the student to do some homework.
Yeah.
Because see, when it comes to study abroad, every country have their national occupation list. National occupation list, what does it mean? Like every country have some specific skilled occupation. Like, they have some specific numbers of positions. So according to that, let's suppose I'm going to pursue some kind of program like data science. So we always encourage and we always suggest the student to pursue such kind of STEM degree or technical program from a country where you have a good exposure. Like US would be one of the best option for that. So in that case, when you want to know about the career progression and what kind of industries are there, how much I can earn there. And again, it is also very subjective, like behind choosing the country and behind choosing the program, we generally ask the question, what is your ultimate goal? Do you want to be settled in that country? Then you look out the national occupation list. If you want to come back, then look at your country prospect, how much you are going to progress in your career by choosing that particular program. So again, it is a lot of homework and research is required behind choosing a country and behind choosing a right program.
So I think there is no one answer because each journey is different. Each student, each
Yes,
interest is
exactly.
different. And I think that is where experts like you come into play. That personalized counseling, it's not just a term, it is very important.
Even there are a lot of students who knows very basic programs, that we have STEM program, we have non-STEM program, we have business program, we have law, we have education and all. But there are a lot of other program, interdisciplinary program are there. Let's suppose if I talk about any kind of medical student program. In India, what happens, like this year, I think more than 25 lakh students have appeared for NEET examinations. And we have, unfortunately, only approximately 70,000 seats in India out of 25 lakh students. So they just know that if MBBS not, then they just switch the career into either any kind of science program or engineering program or any kind of general bachelor's in biology or any kind of normal program. Other than that, in foreign country, there are a lot of program which is related to bioinformatics. This is for those students who have come from the medicine background or biology background, but it is something like a combined program of technology plus medicine. So this is something like bioinformatics is a combined program. If you go ahead with, there are data science with neuroscience, data science with biology. So there are so many programs currently students are not aware about, and even they have a very high range of earning opportunity in that particular career as well.
So I think there is still hope for people. They don't have to be disappointed if they haven't been able to clear some examination. There are a lot of opportunities that these countries provide.
Yes, of course. That is where the student needs specialist or expert consultancies. So, people who have a lot of experience in that particular, field where they can counsel the student, they can give the right feedback of the student, which is ultimately going to help the student in shaping their career and choosing the right direction.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, there are lakhs of students who apply for NEET exams. There are so many students who also apply to international universities. So, how do you suggest that they stand out? I'm sure that they need LORs and they need SOPs, letter of recommendation and statement of purpose. So, what do you suggest that how can they use these documents to actually stand out from the crowd?
See, again, SOP and LOR is very, very important documents which is required by the higher education system, by the foreign universities. When it comes to statement of purpose itself, it is very much clear that what is your intention behind choosing that particular university or behind choosing that particular country. So there are two kind of SOP as well. One is academic and the second is for visa purpose. When it is academic, means all the statement which you are going to describe in your SOP should be very, very clear. Your intention should be very clear and it should be matched to your chosen program, like whatever program you have chosen. Statement of purpose, where you have to also very much clearly mention about your storyline from your interest area, your academic background in school, then college, your achievement, and that is something like related to, it should be very much related to your upcoming program which has been chosen by you to apply to that particular.
That is such an important point because there is a mistake that a lot of students do. They write one SOP and then they send it to multiple universities.
Exactly. It become a very common practice for the student. They understand the SOP is a general document and they send a common SOP to various universities. But they have to understand what is the importance of SOP. So there are, as I earlier discussed, the SOP have a two kind of importance. One is for visa and one is for academic. Like by presenting your SOP, the the admission department can review your entire profile from starting from your school days, college days, your achievement, your skill set, and how that achievement and skill set are matched with the upcoming program and chosen program. That's why it's very much important. And same thing should be implemented while writing a LOR. So while writing your LOR, you should be very careful about your recommender, like who is going to recommend. So choose wisely. And a recommender should always be from your either academic or from your employer. Like if you are a fresh graduate from a school, then definitely your school principal and your school teacher or any of the subject teacher can recommend your admissions. And if you are a university graduate and you're going to apply for a master's program, then definitely 2 or 3 recommendation letter would be required. One will be definitely from academic, or if you have one employer, then one recommendation from your last employer, or either 1 or 2. So that is but also be very careful, like the recommender should have a proper knowledge about your strength, your skill. They should have a proper information about the university where you are going to apply, what kind of program you are going to apply. So they should have a clear vision of your recommendation.
Yeah, because these documents are being carefully verified. It's not just that they're asking it for the sake of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I know that you've been in the industry for so long and you must have read hundreds of SOPs. Can you give some tips and tricks to our students that how can they ace their SOP writing?
Yes. First and foremost, the important thing is clarity on your statements. Whatever statements you are going to add in your descriptions, it should be very thoughtful. It should be always related to the country where are you going, how it will be helpful for you, why this country you are going to move ahead for your education, And again, the same should be implemented for the program, for the course, how it is going to help for your career, why you have chosen that program. That clear vision should be there in your any of the SOP.
I think it is again connected to why you should choose a course, and then that has to be translated into the SOP. So the connection is completely there.
Generally, university check the knowledge and like how well a student has explored the program, the university, the country. Because when they are ready to give you an offer letter, they want to check your knowledge. How well searched you have their universities, about their faculty member, about their program, their curriculum. So is it really helpful for your vision or for your objective?
All right, so the next segment is very exciting. It is the trivia segment where I'll be asking Priyashri some of the most common questions related to studying abroad or just universities in general. So my first question is, which country is known as the land of the rising sun?
No, it's Japan.
Correct, correct. And which language is the most spoken language in the world?
Of course, it's English. It is a universal
Yeah.
language.
Earlier it was Mandarin Chinese, but
Now it's English.
yeah, exactly. And which country has the oldest university in the world?
It's Italy. I don't remember the name of university, but the country is Italy.
Yes, that's correct again. And the university is University of Bologna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, so coming back to the topic, my next question is that how does a student start their application journey?
Yes. After having the complete counseling round, if they need to have the expert guidance and all. So once the university is finalized and the country is finalized, the student can start processing the documents for the applications. So this is something like when according to the eligibility criteria. So first the counselor should check all the documentation provided by the student. They should match the eligibility criteria with the student documents. If the student is eligible, generally we recommend the student to apply at least 3 universities. And personally, I used to according to the student background, their percentage, their academic background, each and everything, we just assess first. And then we recommend 3 university. One should be from top end, second would be from middle end, and then the lower end. So according to the acceptance ratio, we can take the application on a safer side from top to bottom end. And then once we process, when we gather all the documentation, then we should apply to the university by submitting the application, filling up the application form and all.
Can you also share the list of documents that will be required for initial application process?
Yeah, the initial application process requires documents like the very basic documents like academic documents, all this from the school, from the college, the transcripts, the consolidated transcripts, then the certification, degree certifications, and 12th mark sheet, 10th mark sheet, each and every academic documents is required. Then English proficiency test. Most of the university asked to have the English proficiency test, and some of the university where the English proficiency test, they exempt for some specific student, then they go ahead with the MOI, which is medium of instruction certification.
Okay.
And their passport. So, and recommendation letter and SOP is also highly recommended to submit at the time of initial stage. So LOR, SOP, also it is also a mandatory document. So LOR, SOP, academic documents, then your passport are the mandatory document at initial stage. Once we submit the application, it depends upon the university. They can ask for some further information. They can even ask for further documentation like any experience letter, any kind of project a student have done. So proof of that kind of documentation to validate the knowledge and experience of the student, that is also required.
Also, if a student doesn't have some kind of academic documentation, so in 12th class, a lot of students, they might still be waiting for their exam results. So what happens in that situation?
In some country, like the student who are still waiting for the result, for school student, basically the projected score can be present on behalf of the final scorecard. So while applying to the university, along with all other documents like 11th marks and then 12th projected score, they can apply to the university to have the conditional offer letter.
So you have such a long journey, 15 years of experience. I'm sure you must have come across some very funny incidents, whether with students, their parents, or maybe counselors as well. Can you share some?
Yes, there are a lot of, but one incident was there, which is always there in my mind because it was so funny. It was back in 2016, I believe, one candidate, female candidate, one girl was there who recently passed the 12th examination in higher secondary, and then she came up to me with her father, and she was very hopeful that Priyashri would be filing my application and I'm going to have my visa, that is for sure. So even like, that time, few of her friend got the rejection at the same time. So her father was little like, hopeless that maybe my daughter would be also having a rejection, because most like, many of the friend had got the rejection. He was like कि मैम अगर आप मेरे बच्चे को वीज़ा ग्रांट करा दोगे, मैं उसको एयरपोर्ट ले जा करके फ्लाइट के जो विंग्स होते हैं ना, आपको और उसको खड़े करके वीडियो बनाऊंगा एंड मैं उसकी फोटो शूट निकाल करके आपको भेजूंगा. Then I was so it was so funny. So when she got the visa, fortunately she got the visa in 7 days only. When she got the visa, her father requested me to drop her daughter to airport, and on the airport gate we had a very good memories there. So we had pictures, we had videos, and she sent me as a test along with the testimonial. So it was very, very funny, but memorable incident happened with
This is a very beautiful journey, as I think study abroad counselors, you become a part of their family, you become part of their journey. Their emotions are deeply connected.
If you are how to be a part of a student, because I feel being as a career guide, being as a career mentor, it is very much essential to understand the background of the student, to understand their need, what they exactly need. So I generally try to understand the need of the student, like what kind of program is going to help them in their career, in their future. So when you understand their need, when you suggest them according to their need, and when it gets fulfilled, that is amazing feeling, and that is something like people have a trust on you.
Have you had any encounters with parents? So they also become very emotional. They can be very scared for their children, that with their hopes.
Yes, so many times. Most of the time when it comes to a school graduate student, parents have a huge, sometimes they have a huge hope, and sometimes they are scared that their child is going so far, and who is going to take care. And this is something, it is our duty to make them understand what kind of life is going to lead there, what kind of opportunities, and how they will become self-dependent.
Especially mothers, they do not let their children go anywhere.
Exactly. This is very true, because I had counseled more than, I don't have any count, but since last 15 years on an average, it's more than 50,000 students I have counseled. And 50,000, especially for bachelor's student, when it comes for those students who recently passed their schools and higher secondary, they generally come for a counseling with their parents. And I always recommend each and every student to come with your parents, because your parents is going to decide what country, what university, because in presence of your parents, you can guide them well. So the same message conveyed to their parents at the same time.
Yeah. So there's clarity.
Yes, for the better clarity and all. And believe me, if you guide them well, if you show them a right path, and that is one of the best option, is to have their trust on you, is to connect with the university then and there, maybe on virtual call, maybe on call, or even to connect with the alumni. This is the best resources to give them a clarity on the universities and the clarity on the lifestyle of that particular country.
Yeah. I think a lot of agencies or counselors these days, they try to push some particular university or course to a student. But like you've said, it is so important to find the perfect match. I think this is also...
Exactly. It's very every student have a different kind of mindset. Every student come from a different background, and every student have a different objective. So this is something, if being as a counselor, being as a mentor, being as a guide, career guide, you have to identify the thing, like student exactly what they are looking for and what will be best for them. So location also does matter, university ranking does also matter, course most importantly, what kind of program is going to help them a lot. So these are some parameters where if you are perfect in guiding them with accurate information and knowledge, parents are definitely going to go ahead with you.
All right, with this, I'll wrap up today's session. It was amazing to have you on board, and you've really given true answers and true solutions to all the questions.
Thank you so much, Mahima, for having me here. It was lovely talking to you.
So we hope that with these podcasts, we provide you with the solutions that you need and we cater to the challenges that you face while preparing to study abroad. If you have any further questions, make sure that you put them down in the comment section, or you can reach out to us through our website as well. We hope to bring more such content to you, but that is only possible if you subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon.